All right, welcome. It is 5:41 on the evening of March 27th, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting to order. The first item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I move.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second? I need it from either Rebecca or Christina. Both
I'll
on.
second. It's
Thank you.
Rebecca.
Motion is to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Hi.
All right, thank you. Next item on our agenda is the study session. We have Misty joining us tonight, and the topic is the City of Lawrence 2025 funding agreement. Misty, is there anything you want me to show on the screen? I do have the funding agreement if you wanted me to show that, or if you want.
Nope, can you let me share?
Yeah, that would be great. Let me. Oh, yes. Everybody's so demanding tonight. Let's see. All right, hang on. Speakers.
Meeting now.
That's the microphone.
Speakerphone.
They do that. And okay. Can everybody hear me on my end?
Sounds kind of weird, but I can hear you.
Kind of weird. Can you hear, Chuck, can you say something?
In its September 3rd, 2024 regular meeting.
You can hear Chuck?
Yeah,
You can hear us?
I can hear you. Just, yeah, it's fine.
I think it was going from my laptop instead of the meeting out. So I think we're better now. And you need me to share screen.
Yeah.
Oh, there, that's better.
Okay.
I was trying to find a way to do it. Thanks for requesting it.
All right. So can you see my screen then?
Not yet.
Do you stop sharing perhaps?
No,
All right.
I got it. Nope, it's fine. You should see it now.
Nope.
No.
No,
Nope.
it says I'm screen sharing.
I'm gonna stop sharing. Really?
I'm able to see it on Zoom.
What's in your view, Charlie?
Oh, that's great. You guys can see it all.
There you go.
I had to stop sharing and now we can see it on our end. Can everybody else still see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for bearing through this, please. Or thank you.
Ready?
Yep.
We're good.
Okay. All right. So, good evening. Before we get into tonight's presentation, highlighting the key changes from the 2024 to the 25 contract, I just wanted to take a moment to reflect on our partnership and why these contracts are so important. This contract is a shared commitment between the City of Lawrence and the Lawrence Community Shelter. Through our strategic plan, the city has intentionally taken responsibility for emergency sheltering and homeless outreach. Recognizing the strengths and dedication of the Lawrence Community Shelter, we've entrusted the Lawrence Community Shelter as our primary partner to execute these critical services. Our contract clearly outlines expectations, roles, and goals, setting a foundation for accountability and collaboration and continuous improvement. The tremendous growth and progress that we achieved together over the past year has been amazing, and it demonstrates the strength of this partnership. Tonight, I just want to explore the differences and advancements in the new contract and reinforcing our shared dedication to addressing homelessness effectively and compassionately. I want to thank you guys for your continued hard work and your commitment to this mission. So first I want to go over the difference in shelter capacity and operations. In 2024, shelter capacity was clearly defined with a minimum bed requirement. So 125 beds at emergency shelter, 50 beds at the village, with winter shelter activation only when temperatures hit 32 or feels like 32. Currently, only 25 to 30 beds at the shelter are receiving full services, while the remainder operate on the night-by-night basis. In contrast, 2025 emphasizes full utilization of all shelter beds to ensure no beds are empty if there is a community demand. Once Pallet 24 is completed, the city's expectation is that all 125 beds at the LCS main campus will be designated as emergency shelter beds, providing guests access to 3 meals a day, housing-focused case management, and structured programming designed to increase housing stability and significantly lower recidivism at LCS. Guests will have access to these expanded services provided they comply with their individual case management plans. So I put that in there because compliance with case management is essential to move individuals quickly into appropriate permanent housing, reducing the proven negative impacts associated with prolonged stays in emergency shelters, such as increased psychological stress, decreased self-efficacy, health deterioration, and risks of dependency. So if anybody's interested, I'm happy to share those studies on the long-term effects of, not long-term negative effects on prolonged stays in emergency shelter. Slide 2, residency and eligibility. In 2024, we set a policy stating, we're gonna prioritize our population of individuals that are experiencing homelessness in Douglas County. Our residency requirements in our last contract allowed some flexibility. The city of Lawrence asked that, the residents were prioritized, focusing mainly on, historical connections to the community. This left some gray area where we were not completely excluding individuals for out of county. And so in 2025, we shifted towards more strict residency enforcement, exclusively serving Douglas County residents with a clear verification process within 7 days. Non-residents now receive up to 3-day respite coordinated through the homeless response team so that we can facilitate a safe return to their home community. Enhanced case management. In 2024, case management practices lacked effective collaboration throughout the community and effective consistency, leading to inadequate client support and fragmented services, and the right hand didn't know what the left hand was doing. So for 2025, significant improvements will be made through strong and structured support. The contract explicitly requires case manager initiation within 3 business days of guest arrival, with follow-ups tailored to individual needs and occurring no less frequently than biweekly. Mandatory city-led case management trainings will be implemented for all case management staff, ensuring standardized, high-quality services, collaboration amongst all community partners, and enhance effectiveness in meeting client needs. Financial sustainability goals in the contract. In 2024, there were no clear financial sustainability targets, as our primary expectation from the city was just to stabilize the shelter and ensure it became a safe, reliable, trusted place by both our unsheltered neighbors and our community. Thanks to this board and James's leadership, I feel we have successfully achieved that goal. Moving forward, the 2025 contract introduces specific financial sustainability objectives. In 2026, LCS will receive 10% less funding from the city compared to 2025. And then by 2027, the funding reduction will increase to 25%. Regular semi-annual progress reports will be provided with technical assistance from the city to support these goals. Staff-defined roles. In 2024, our primary focus was stabilization at LCS, and during that period, the realization emerged that stronger collaboration and clear communication were essential. It also became evident that the existing leadership had extensive responsibilities, often managing multiple roles simultaneously. With increased funding for 2025, the city aims to introduce dedicated positions designed to transition LCS from surviving to genuinely thriving. The expectation from the city is that these roles, the program coordinator, case management supervisor, special project liaison, and HMIS data specialist will be filled by distinct individuals so we can ensure roles and responsibilities are clearly delineated. As someone deeply involved in shelter operations previously, I recognize the immense value of these additional roles. I'm eager to see these positions filled. I did get news yesterday that one of them has been filled. And so this enables us to enhance programming, reinforce that case management support, collaborate effectively with special projects liaison to find suitable placements for individuals that may not fit into LCS scope of care, and then build upon the excellence already demonstrated in data management, particularly by involving the HMIS data specialist heavily in Built for Zero and then other city-county strategies. Day services and programming. In 2024, day services were available for the 25 to 30 individuals that were in the 90-day program. And there was not structured programming in place. In 2025, the city is requiring LCS to introduce that structured daily programming with clearly defined skill building activities such as financial literacy, employment training, health education, and life skills development. This structured programming will provide shelter guests who comply with case management, again, essential tools to build self-sufficiency and stability. Research consistently shows that individuals experiencing homelessness who receive these trainings and essential life skills experience higher levels of self-sufficiency, leading to more successful transitions to permanent housing. Life skills education significantly decreases returns to shelters by enabling individuals to navigate common barriers such as managing rent payments, interacting with landlords, and maintaining homes. Additionally, life skills programming correlates with higher employment retention and economic stability. Supporting research highlights that these benefits, there was a 2018 study published in the Journal of Community Psychology, showed significantly lower recidivism rates among participants who receive life skills training. HUD also reports an 85 to 90% success rate in permanent supportive housing programs incorporating life skills and case management. National Alliance to End Homelessness emphasizes that shelters and transitional programs with practical life skills achieve better outcomes and housing stability as well. Enhanced reporting and monitoring. Previously, quarterly reporting and monitoring were basic and general. In 2025, detailed HMIS data tracking is now available and required, including careful tracking of individuals who return to the shelter. Semi-annual compliance checks are more rigorous and immediate notification of critical incidents, such as releasing someone to homelessness and the possibility of death, somebody passes. Those are mandated to ensure accountability and transparency. Our inclement weather shelter operations. In 2024, the city paused out, that's 2025, the city paused outreach operations. And this resulted in us having a 2.5 month data gap for the homeless response team, so that we could provide overflow shelter to approximately 45 to 50 individuals in partnership with the First United Methodist Church, the University of Christ Church, and LCS. Although this collaboration successfully prevented weather-related deaths for the first time in 5 years, which, that's wonderful. We recognize the need for LCS to be, to lead this as the experts in sheltering operations. I feel with the addition of Pallet 24, adequate bed space will be assured for every unsheltered Douglas County resident, as the as we all work to get folks housed in this, we keep chipping away at this number of individuals experiencing homelessness in Douglas County. And with that, the city remains committed to supporting LCS leadership in making this transition smoothly and making sure that it's effective, and happy to help however we can. So in summary, the improvements from 2024 to 2025 reflect a shift from stabilization to proactive growth and excellence. Key changes include, the clearly defined expectations for shelter capacity, residency enforcement, robust enhancements to case management practices, structured financial sustainability planning, and the introduction of specialized staff roles, comprehensive day services and programming backed by evidence-based outcomes. Additionally, the transition of the inclement weather shelter responsibilities demonstrates LCS's increased leadership role, supported by the city's ongoing commitment. These enhancements position LCS to effectively deliver long-term solutions, significantly improve housing stability, reduce recidivism, and foster a safer and healthier community. So looking forward, our vision is ambitious and achievable, built on collaborative leadership, strategic innovation, and community engagement. By fully implementing these enhancements, LCS will continue evolving from a temporary solution to a proactive partner in addressing homelessness. Our goal is a robust, responsive system that ensures rapid transition to stable housing, promotes self-sufficiency, apologies, and supports dignity and independence for every individual experiencing homelessness in Douglas County. That is all I have.
Thank you, Misty. All right, just open it up for discussion and questions.
I have a handful of questions, and though some of it may be more directed to our own organization and how we achieve some of these expectations. And then I still don't have a good understanding of our capacity with our special use permit, and maybe that's still somewhat up in the air on determination of that. Here's a real simple and one in our agreement on meal provision. It's saying that we agree to provide 3 meals daily to individuals sheltered at the emergency shelter and the village. In a lot of the discussion here, we're making a distinction about the emergency shelter, the village, and PAL 24. Is PAL 24 not included in that scope of work as far as meals, or is that in this instance just being lumped into the emergency shelter format?
It's all inclusive.
Okay, so the potential 48 people that would be PAL 24 will be accommodated with 3 meals a day.
They can be, that would mean because they're not there 24 hours, they will be getting lunches to go, sack lunches. So they would be able to get breakfast and dinner for sure, and maybe get a sack lunch when they leave in the morning.
Okay.
For a night-by-night program. We've, in order to make sure that's part of what we do, we're starting to implement that now. So we've also been engaging volunteers to come in and make sandwiches and things like that, so we can gear up to, so that's an expectation that we're used to, so it doesn't come as a shock to the system. So we're working on getting that implemented now.
That's good. That's great news.
So next one, and this is just, forgive me for this, but I've been spending way too much time in the last couple of weeks reading contracts. And so when I see something I'm not clear about, I ask for the particulars. So in our financial sustainability component, item number 4, it's saying sustainability plan, that we will submit a financial sustainability plan by Q2 2025. In my mindset, that's Tuesday.
That's the beginning of Q2.
Okay, so during, it said not by, but during, okay.
What page are you
This would be on page. Oh, you know what, I don't see page numbers
Oh,
on here,
what
I'm gonna
page
say
is
it's
it?
probably page 11.
on? I think I got the right page. I just
Okay.
wanted
I'm not
to-
sure if that was a question for me. You guys are kind of breaking up a little bit. So if there was a question, could you repeat it?
Yeah, that line, that number 4, so again, just for clarification, we don't have to provide that plan by the beginning of Q2, it's sometime during the second quarter.
Yeah.
During the second quarter rather than
Yeah.
by the second quarter, okay,
Is that, you confirm that, Misty?
Yes.
okay.
And just let you know, I have an outline of that plan. We've been meeting weekly, through that Barry and I meet sometimes two times a week. But I have an outline of that plan, and we've decided to put it into a PowerPoint format that clearly outlines how we plan to do that. And so it's more than just saying we're gonna ask for less money. It's a comprehensive plan to show the stability of the shelter, to show the community by numbers and outcomes what the shelter is doing. Fundraising, donations, just things like, different things like that. So we have a comprehensive plan we're putting together. Some of it's gonna kick off here next week with the launch of our social media platform. I will say this now, hashtag we are LCS. Just be on the lookout for that. What I've started to do is I'm gonna be going around interviewing people. Matter of fact, my camera's in the car. Interviewing people, maybe 10-minute sessions where I just ask a series of 5 questions. And we'll publish the whole interview. We'll take blurbs of it with questions and answers on social media, but the full video will be linked to YouTube, and it'll be hashtag we are LCS. So.
And again, for clarification, and Missy, you spoke to this, but I just want to make sure I'm not certain on this, the following page of the agreement where we're talking about the inclement weather shelter standards, items number 5 and 6. We are saying that we are assuming the role, the responsibility for finding those additional locations outside of the spaces that we control. So in other words, LCS will be the responsible party for trying to secure those locations at area churches and things of that sort. The city will not play a role in that process in the future.
No, I don't. What I expect to happen is that Pallet 48 puts in place every bed that we would need. Now, should there be an issue with overflow, we have partners that we can turn to. But I don't suspect that will be a need, because we will have those additional 48 beds.
So Chuck, you're
I'm
asking about, no, item 8,
I'm looking at item 5 and
5.
6
5 and 6.
on there.
City of Lawrence will no longer, so number 5 is the city of Lawrence will no longer directly operate emergency weather shelters.
Which I suppose is the situation for this recent year, right? Because we didn't utilize any city, the community building was not, East Lawrence Center, I don't
No,
believe.
we ran 2 shelters all winter.
The city
I'm
staff.
sorry, yeah, we staffed those
Yeah.
2 different shelters all through January, February, and part of March.
So that the difference for this coming, this next season would be that the city would not do that? Is that?
That's correct. So the city would, I mean, we served around 45 individuals in those two areas. You know, we're adding 48 beds to LCS. So, you know, I don't suspect that we will need any overflow. If we do need overflow, you know, that's a different discussion, but
Okay,
I wouldn't imagine we would need that.
so as I understand it, just let me summarize. Because there will be additional capacity with the opening of pallet 24/48 during significant events. The excess that the city was handling this year shouldn't be necessary.
Right.
Okay,
But if it is necessary, we will coordinate with some of those. Like I know John, the First United will be available, and if we have to get volunteers, we can handle soliciting volunteers and things like that to help out. So
that gets to item 6.
Yeah.
That if it should happen that additional bed space is necessary, then LCS would actively collaborate.
And I think we did a lot of this work before the winter session, and then that first storm was so bad that volunteers couldn't even show up, and that kind of threw everything for a whack. I think Misty's saying, how long did I work without a break? I mean, it was over 7 days in a row or something like that, and
It was a couple
so
weeks.
LCS, we had shifts, it was normal operations for us, but John was working 7 days or 8 days. John worked every day we had work, so I understand what she's saying, so the spaces will be available, but the staffing will have to, if needed, we'll have to have a robust volunteer program. We could even shift some of our staff there. I mean, we'll be able to do some of those things this year with the expectation that's what we'll do, but we'll have a lot more spaces because with the 48 beds, the 125 that we have, we can go up to 173, but then we have more spaces than that, and we can utilize those in an emergency. But just by raw numbers, we have enough beds.
Misty, when I go back, sorry, Chuck, if you don't mind, I'd like to just get a little further on this particular point. When we go back to one of the earlier study sessions, when the new board was instituted, we had done some, it was kind of the grand presentation around the city and county's plan and what LCS's role would be. And we did some calculations kind of, maybe on napkin kind of level calculations. And I don't recall exactly what the total number was, but there was a aspiration for, definitely for expanding capacity. This is before you were brought on board, James. And I'm curious, given what you know now and where you believe the community is there still a need for growing capacity, or does this feel like we've kind of, the end is in sight in terms of what the community needs LCS to become?
So the only capacity that I'm thinking about right now is families. I think we are good at a single adult capacity.
Okay. This is probably outside of the scope of our topic tonight, but I am curious. Early on discussions about the village were that would be about a 3-year operation. So when we're talking about total capacity for LCS, is it like after the 3rd year of the village is I assume then the capacity is a little lower. Is the final kind of target capacity for LCS all on the campus where the main shelter is? Or do you think it's kind of potentially including the village beyond that initial 3-year?
I mean, I guess it just depends on how quick we end homelessness. Yeah, I'm not sure where that 3-year number came from, but this is still a brand new project, and like we survived year 1, and now we're moving into building something that will thrive, and that'll be year 2, and then it's going to take some time. So three years
I don't know where that came from either, but I had in my head, that was some discussions that we,
Well, I think in there, you know, in a lot of the city discussion of the project and the development of it, I
okay,
think that was continually using a 3 to 5 year,
3 to 5, okay,
3 to 5 year reference on that,
all
so.
right.
You know, I think, yeah, like
Well-
Misty's saying, it depends on where the need remains.
Okay. So we think about expansion efforts, it sounds to me like year 2 of this work is like finishing what's been started, and then we should be kind of in a steady state in terms of capacity building.
I mean, I assume so, unless, you know,
Yeah, I know, I
God
understand.
forbid,
Everybody, no one can predict the future.
that's
But in
right.
terms of like what we believe is necessary, what you're kind of imagining is, or projecting is necessary, like our work should be now around less
Yeah,
about trying
it's-
to build up and now just like, let's get this locked in and do
Mhm.
the best work we can do.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, the only other question mark that I have been pondering on this agreement is one that you focused on as well substantially, and that is the county residency requirement. And I guess I'm wondering whose verification are we operating with, meaning are we creating our own verification process at LCS? Or is the homeless outreach team providing us a reference for verification of individuals? How does that verification process occur, and is it changing over time?
It's a combination. The scenario is when somebody presents at the shelter, being a low barrier shelter, we don't require identification. So we ask specific questions about where you slept last night, where was your last place of residence? These are initial questions on people coming in at 7 with no place to live. After that happens, there is another assessment that happens if somebody identifies as being a Douglas County resident. When they meet with their case manager and they get the coordinated entry assessment, that's where other questions are asked, and then we try to verify the validity of the answers that we get. If it becomes a question of if they are really a Douglas County resident, say they have no way to verify that they were ever a resident here, those visible means that we have, we let Misty know that to somebody that might not be a Douglas County resident, their team takes over to qualify that, if we have some question about that. If somebody presents as not being a Douglas County resident, we say, depending on the time, if they come in at 7, we say, in the morning, you must contact the homeless resource team. If it's during the week, if it's on a weekend, we say on Monday morning, you have to contact them. And then we no longer allow them to stay until we hear from the HRT team that they have indeed contacted them and they're working to verify where they can receive support. If they are not amenable to working with HRT team, they no longer receive respite at the Norris Community Shelter, and we don't serve them. That's the basic, and you know, there's different nuances to people's stories. But one of the things we found is once we start to drill down and really flesh out last place of residence, who are your resources and things like that, we can pretty much determine how long somebody's been in Douglas County, or if they are indeed a Douglas County resident. And just being here for 7 days or being here 2 weeks or a month from somewhere else doesn't really do it. Now, we have had some people that have been here for that short amount of time, but now they've started to have a job, verifiable employment, and they want to become we still let the HRT team know, and then we make a decision on should they be allowed to stay or not.
so if someone's trying to establish residency here, by securing a job or doing something that,
It's on a case by case basis, because once we do establish and say yes, then they will be a resident, so
okay,
it's case by case.
But
basis.
that's not our policy. Like, we get several calls with people that, say, I want to come to Lawrence, I'm gonna get a job, like, and my answer is no. They unfortunately, like, I tell them, like, if I wanted to establish residency somewhere else, like, I need to have a lease. So, that's how you do that here. So, yeah, so we do not do that.
thank you for clarifying that.
Now, this is a tangential question to this, but it just some of the things that you, Misty, you just said reminded me that, I know the city of Wichita is just now creating their own identity certification for people within the city of Wichita. Is that a valuable process to undertake, or is there merit in that?
Yeah, I mean, it would be extremely helpful if we could have, the police department or even the jail implement a program like that. So it's not something that I could just do. The way that they do that is they can verify this individual is who they say they are by a criminal record. So we don't have access to those systems that say this is who they are because of, it was confirmed when they had an interaction with law enforcement. So it is helpful. I've been able to use it in Topeka in my work there, but we're not there. I think there's maybe funding issues and staffing issues, and so it's not. I know it's been asked for, and I'm definitely willing to revisit that with individuals again and see if we're in a better place now to do that.
Anything else on your list? Christina or Rebecca, do either of you have any questions?
I
don't
don't have any questions. Thank you, Charlie.
Well, Misty, we appreciate you taking time this evening to present on the changes from the 2024 agreement and the that are in the 2025 agreement. And I think as you kind of started your presentation, I just want to acknowledge our appreciation also for the partnership with the city and the county, but in particular the city, and the commitment the city has made to helping further the mission of LCS.
Yeah, doing good stuff. Glad to be a
Alright.
part of it. I'm going to switch over to my phone so I can start driving home.
Okay,
See you guys.
thanks.
All right, thank you.
I'm gonna share back the agenda. All right. We'll move on then to the next topic on our regular agenda is our finance report. Karen.
I don't have financial statements. This accounting transition away from Kindred into our new accounting system, which is called Zero, has been a much larger undertaking than I initially thought. The last 2 weeks I've been putting in 12-hour days and working on the weekends too. And so I can't show you guys anything meaningful today, other than just telling you that it's been the bane of my existence lately.
Right.
I've had to do everything manually. There are some really nice fancy tools where typically you would get from one accounting software, you could transition it to another accounting software. That was not an option. So this has been a very manual, time-consuming. I've been laboring, getting 2 years of history and the reason for that is we won't have access to Kindred's accounting system. So I'll need to transition at least 2 years of our history to Zero, and I'm trying to make sure that we have a good foundation in that for 2025. I do have 2025 data in Zero, but like I said, I don't have a good foundation and, you know, I do feel a little deflated that I don't have anything for you today after all of the work that I put in. But that doesn't mean that I'm gonna stop working on it, because I do need to continue working on that. I'll need to have quarterly reports available, so I also have a ton of journal entries out to the auditors, to address 2024, so that we can get a really accurate read on 2025. Speaking of that, 2024 audit, I think we're pretty close. This week we got the tax engagement letter for 2024 from Cummins, Kaufman and Schmidtling, which tells me, having been on that side, that they're feeling pretty comfortable with where our financials at to prepare our 990. Our 990 is the tax forms that we have to file. They're due May 15th. So to have our audit done and our tax return done within the time frame that the city put us on, as we're a component unit of the city, we need to get our 2024 audit completed by the end of April to give to the city for them to incorporate in their financial statements for their annual report in June. So anyway, the tax engagement letter to me signals that we're really close.
Good.
They're probably wanting to complete the tax return and then just give it to us all at the same time. I've been corresponding with Megan at Cummins, and we had a lot of interesting things happen last year. The discovery of gravesite donations. We had 2 gravesite donations from the city. Well, I shouldn't say from the city. The city came into that. And then we learned in October that there were 2 plots that were donated to us. So anyway, making sure that that's on record, making sure that pallet 24 invoices that we received in December are accurately accounted for, accruals, so everything that happened in 2024 is staying in 2024. I do want to remind everybody that we are not on GAAP. We're not GAAP compliant, I should say. It's not required of us per se. Our accounting base is cash modified. So we can do accruals, but it's not to where we have to recognize leases like in GAAP, and there's very strict requirements, and the audit also cost more to do if we were GAAP based. So anyway, that's all that to say, we're close. And if anything, that had been my priority, is making sure that I was able to get whatever they needed, the auditors needed, to ensure that we could get our audit completed on time and approved into the city. So that's where that is.
Last month, we talked about the timing and possibility of whether we would need to have a special board meeting or have kind of authorize the exec committee to kind of finalize the audit. Do you have any sense if we need to do either of those? We have our next board meeting on the 24th of April. So it's kind of like, I think we discussed the possibility, maybe the draft of it is seen that evening, and then any changes or any finalization could happen on the following Monday with the executive committee. Is that
I believe
seem on
that,
target?
I believe that's okay.
Or the exec committee could see the draft on the Monday before the board meeting, and then, so is that
Yeah,
either option, Phil?
I believe that that's still on track.
Okay.
I would ask for the board's permission that when we do get the draft audit, that I can share it with the city so that they can give it to their auditors to prep what they need to prep. And then we can continue with giving them the final approved audit. That way, they're not necessarily waiting for us until the last minute to get the approval. If it's okay with the board, I would like to present to the city a draft once we have that. So that their auditors can get working on it. They can also meet their time constraints.
Seems reasonable. Chuck, did you have a question?
Well, it was.
Are you ready to make
back
a motion?
I mean, kind of along the same lines on the reporting questions, and the problems that you're encountering with the transition. You know, it seems like we've got a commitment to the city to provide by the 15th of April, our financial quarterly information for 2025.
Yes.
Is that, are you gonna be able to do that? Do we need to supplement your work with someone else to help that happen? Or how do we, do you
So,
feel confident that we're gonna achieve that April 15th?
so we're 2 weeks away. I'm still gonna continue laboring away. I do believe that that is possible.
Okay,
I thought it was possible this week. After I sent you a message on, through email and said, yeah, I think you can get it done. I was overly optimistic about my capabilities.
Yeah.
My husband reminded me today that I'm one person doing this, so. But yes, I acknowledge that, yes, April 15th is when we need to have our quarterlies done. As soon as I have something ready, I will email it to the exec board committee. For you guys to review, and then, presentation at our next board meeting. We'll just be talking about 2024 and then the first quarter 2025 financial statements, that meeting anticipated.
Anybody want to make a motion to sort of, make it acceptable to provide the draft of our annual audit to the city before it's finalized? As long as they know it's a draft, it
Yeah.
hasn't been finalized.
And, you know, they provide us with those drafts similar to how that watermark you have on our draft, agenda. That's what that's called. They've got the watermarks on there, so they would be presented with the watermarks on there.
well then, sure, I would move that we provide a draft copy of our 2024 annual audit to the city in advance of the deadline to allow them to verify our ability to satisfy their auditors' requirements.
Thanks, Chuck. Is there a second on the motion?
I will second that.
Thanks, Christina. So the motion's been made and seconded to share the draft audit, the 2024 annual audit with the city as soon as it's available to facilitate the completion of the city's efforts to complete their annual work. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed, say nay. There's no one left to vote, so motion passes. All right, thanks, everyone.
Thank you. All right, so the last thing, is the 401k plan update. This has been another thing that's been a bane of my existence from the origination up until now. So I had a meeting with Pete and Associates, who is our 401k plan administrator, and ERISA Services Midwest, who is our compliance. We've got a contract with them to make sure that we're in compliance in administering our 401k plan. So in our collective bargaining agreement, let me pull that up so I can refer to it. Okay, so in our collective bargaining agreement, it's Article 10, Section 3. LCS will contribute 2% to an LCS sponsored retirement fund of any employee with more than 3 years of service. Any employee can use payroll deductions to donate themselves. This option would start 6 months after employment begins. However, LCS will not contribute until the employee has amassed 3 years of service. So the way that it is written in our CBA doesn't exactly align with defined contribution plan language, particularly outlined by ERISA, which stands for Employee Retirement Income Security Act. That act has been in place since 1974, and it says that employers cannot make employees wait if they're enrolled in a defined contribution plan. They cannot make their employees wait 3 years. The most that we can make our employees wait is 1 year. However, there's the vesting schedule. So the way our defined contribution plan is set up is that there is a 3-year cliff vesting schedule. So at 3 years, anything that's contributed by LCS into that plan becomes the employee's 100%. Before then, they get nothing of those contributions. If an employee leaves before those 3 years and they're contributing, and LCS has been contributing after their year, if they leave before the 3 years, it stays in the pot. So it doesn't necessarily go with the employee. The issue is that I don't have a background in HR. I don't think many of us, when we were involved in the negotiations with the CBA, or with the union rather, really understood how to set this up. And so when we were budgeting, we didn't budget for those employees who were at LCS for longer than a year. ERISA requires us to contribute to the 401k plan for those employees, even though the CBA says different. Federal law in this case is trumping what our CBA says. Again, when we set up the defined contribution plan with American funds, that was the option is, okay, we can do a 3-year cliff vesting schedule, but LCS is required, as I understand it now, to contribute to the 401k plan for those participants who have been at LCS for at least a year. The CBA does align with how our plan is set up, in that new employees would have the option to enroll in the defined contribution plan 6 months after their employment begins. So dollar-wise, for all employees, this comes to the tune of about $28,000 that we did not budget for. We have, because I just ran it during the meeting, 63 eligible employees. Only 48 of those are enrolled and active
That's 48 of
of
the 63
63.
that have been here a year or more.
They're actively participating. I'll just leave it at that. My calculation takes into account when these employees, when their hire dates are. And so I have it broken out by month, because you can't just do it by the year, right? Because people get hired during various points throughout the year. So I broke it down even further than that by payroll. So the next payroll will be 4/4. So I have it go 4/4 all the way to the last payroll this year, which is 12/26. And it will start those contributions for those employees whose anniversary is a year within that period, and the amount of 2% of their base earnings. The calculation is also based on the average base earnings from the first payroll this year through this most recent payroll on 3/21. So just on an average for all employees, except the ones that we budgeted for, this is an additional $28,000 that we did not budget for. Now, the enrolled / active part of it could be of interest to you guys, because if we require that employees be enrolled in the plan in order to receive the 2% contribution, then that reduces that unbudgeted amount to 23,000. But we need to I need to inform our staff of this new information. Because I didn't understand at the time when we were enrolling, because we had to put it together as soon as possible, essentially, was what we did. Now that I understand, I wanna make sure that everybody understands what their rights are, that they're eligible to enroll at any time, they're not restricted to just the beginning of the year, or just in the end of the year, they can enroll anytime. But as it stands right now, if these 15 individuals still choose not to enroll because they won't be vested until 3 years, that's $23,000. And I will say we did have a few employees that were adamant that they could not afford to contribute to this plan. That's not to say that we shouldn't consider that, but this is why you guys are making this decision and bringing it to you guys. We need to figure out, first of all, do we want to wait until towards the end of the year to make a catch-up contribution, which will be required for us to be in compliance? And ERISA Services Midwest will do the true-up calculation that we will need to pay. It's either $28,000 at the end of the year, or 23, depending on how you guys wanna do it. Or we pay the catch-up right now, which is $4,000. And then each payroll just continue to make those 2% contributions to everyone who has been there for more than a year. And just keep in mind that with vesting schedule.
Rebecca has a question, let's see what that is.
I guess I have a thought and maybe a question too. So I feel like, I mean, I was really involved in the negotiations when we did the collective bargaining agreement. And I think, we were assuming that that we would be able to, I guess, execute the agreement as we wrote it. I mean, knowing that there were legalities that we did not account for in the agreement, I think it would be appropriate to go back and renegotiate this before we make any decisions, or attempt to renegotiate this before we make any decisions.
Renegotiate with the union, just to be clear.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
That was something that we considered. Based on the timing, that we wanted to make sure that we were in compliance with the contract and setting up this defined contribution plan. However, because this is a decision that we're bringing to you guys, it is, number one, unbudgeted for, and two, also involves largely the union. That is something that you guys could consider doing.
So in our 2025 budget, at least the version that I'm looking at, and I don't know, we may have modified that, but we had budgeted 15,000 for the year 2025 on 401k contributions. So is that number, are you saying that we would instead of 15,000, have 23,000, for instance, or is that 23,000 on top of that 15,000? Are we talking about an $8,000 increase in this expense item for budget year, or are we talking about a $23,000 increase in that expense item?
No. Feels a little relieved to hear you.
Well, I was thinking the same thing, like we did budget something for this.
That number is padded. The number is padded,
I'm not sure what you mean by padding.
Yeah, I don't like that term, don't say it again.
You based it on some calculation.
I did, I think I was like, if these people are gonna come into it. Because my calculation is showing for those that we're already paying for. For the rest of the year is $4,000. And we have paid. On average about. $200, so $2, 4, 6, 8. So $2,000 so far. On top of that, so. That would give us. That would bring us to $6,000 for the year for those individuals if nothing changes, and again, based on the payroll for the first. 5 payrolls of this year. Which means that $9,000. Was over budgeted. Then you take that from.
So you're anticipating the possibility that more people would enroll in that.
Yeah, that people
Yeah.
would come on,
Okay.
because we do have some people that will be at 3 years
Mhm.
this year, sometime this year.
Okay.
But again, in this case, it doesn't matter as much because we would have to be contributing for everybody that's over a year.
Yep.
So
So the,
by my new calculation and to Chuck's discovery, I guess, that would make it about a $19,000 non-budgeted item rather than
Okay.
28. So that makes it a little bit better. Not great, but a little bit better.
so thinking back on our financial policies then, help me, remind me again, I think we had a threshold of 20,000 and it was under 20,000. James had authority to make any changes in the, or, approve all of those expenses. So it seems like we're within the threshold. We don't really need to modify the budget per se,
Okay,
so. But this, I think Rebecca raises an interesting question for us to think about, like, if in fact federal law doesn't allow us to do what we put into the agreement, then how do we want to reconcile that? Is that something we just have a discussion with the union? It seems like it's actually benefiting the, complying with the law is benefiting the union.
mhm.
So, and I feel like there was language in the agreement that if there's a legal thing, then the law would always trump. I'm not sure I'd call it exactly, it was a long time ago, but feels like maybe there's just a matter of communicating with the union that we've recognized that to comply with this ERISA requirement, we're gonna need to start contributing sooner than we thought,
Mhm.
and that's gonna, there's really no.
So this is Rebecca. I would like to, I mean, if Karen could summarize what kind of our position in writing, and then also like include a link to the ERISA language that we need to be complying with. I mean, the specific, provisions that you're referencing. That would be really helpful if it would be okay to wait until next month to finalize this.
Is that, I guess I'm unsure that we need to have a board action on this. I feel like the CBA provides a mechanism for the communicating with the union about a change. We'd just be wanting to make sure that,
Why don't I research that?
okay,
In my opinion, because the law benefits employees, I don't know what the renegotiation would be. And the renegotiation could only be what it is now. I would not be in favor of renegotiation to do away with the 401k.
right,
But the only thing that's changed is that instead of us being able to wait for 3 years, we have to contribute immediately, which
Almost.
is well, almost,
Yeah.
but it's our burden. Any 401k plan that we initiate would be the same way.
Mhm.
And so I don't know what the renegotiation would be unless it was look at something else to compensate for the additional funding or the additional resources that employees would get to compensate for something else down the line. I don't want to negotiate that in this meeting, but that would be the renegotiate. So there's no, we would all come out even based on the contract and what the expectations were. I know at this point, our relationship with the union and our employees is growing. And I think this maybe calls for more discussion at a different level to decide what it is that we would like to accomplish by renegotiation. I'm not sure what that is. I do agree that information is what we need to relay and let people know, like you said, that we will contribute, we have to contribute after a year. That vesting schedule is that trade-off where they're still not their funding until after 3 years. So we can still do that, but it's there. That to me is more incentive for employee stability, people staying and staying involved in the agency because they have something to look for if you want to look at it like that. But there are good things about that. The bad thing is that we didn't budget for it and we didn't have that information before we did this.
Yeah. I mean, I think this, like you said, it gives some incentive to stay employed. And it's not that once you're there for 3 years, now there's money flowing to your retirement. It's actually, there's money already put aside.
Right.
And once you hit that threshold, it's yours. And you can, if you do choose to leave, you can take it. But
Because, right, at our long-term goal is to have an employee base that has some longevity and that contributes to the shelter and we have some stability that leads to better services that we can provide. And I think it's all good. I just don't want to give the impression that we don't want to do that for some reason in the renegotiation. I think we could maybe do a think tank about what it is that we could do because we are grant funded and our funds are limited and we're already talking about reducing funds. We can't afford to have costs that we didn't budget for. And if we do, we have to find some way to compensate for that. That's what we're doing with our strategic development. And because we made a mistake, we have to just be upfront. That's what happened. Here's some of the things that we could do. We don't go back for renegotiation with the CBA until next year. I think we start negotiating for the year after.
Yep.
And so that's just something we want to think about, and I think we have to be real intentional about what it is we want to portray. I think at this stage, it's just a delicate way to act with our employees. We just want to ensure that we have their best interest along with the agency's best interest. We just have to, the way we do that is really important, how we go forward doing that.
I suppose the requirement of being enrolled in a plan, it's not outlined in here because it just says any employee of more than 3 years of service. However, again, because we didn't budget for it, are we wanting to across the board just go ahead and contribute to those that aren't enrolled also, or the ones that actively enroll?
No, we don't want to do that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, but people have the opportunity to enroll, which anytime somebody enrolls and invests their own money, that's an investment they make in the agency as well as their job. So I like that, what that means. We just didn't budget for it, so.
Right,
Well, let's be careful how we say that. We didn't budget enough for it.
We didn't budget enough for it, right?
Right,
Right.
the calculation you used wasn't
Yeah, right.
considering this requirement,
requirement.
so,
Right. So we budgeted for it, but not enough.
yeah,
Thank you.
We budgeted enough for the information we had at the time.
right.
And even though we put into place a whole company to help us do that, at the last minute, those are some things that change. So it's not our fault and it's not a bad thing. It's just something that happened that we'll get through.
So I don't think there's any board action at this point, but I think given the discussion about the union, it certainly makes sense to make sure they're aware of what we've learned, and so I would assume, you know, you could take care of that.
Yeah.
And if they have a response where they want to have some deeper discussion, I'd be certainly open, but I think at the minimum, we need to make sure that as we learn information that impacts or it's related to the CBA, that they need to be brought on the same, you know, they understand the same thing we're learning.
And I think even in our contract, we're obligated to let them know some of the changes, whether it's pro or con, we just have to let them know the information we have. And I think that's important
Okay.
that we do that.
All right, anything else to report tonight?
That was it.
Okay.
You know, I do apologize. However, I'm already feeling I'm feeling a lot deflated that
You're doing great.
I've taken this massive project and
Yeah,
it wasn't an impossible deadline, but
well,
it's impossible.
anytime you transition systems, it's tough.
Well,
I think anyone that's done that
on
knows
top
how.
of doing
hard
audit
it can be.
after audit, back-to-back audits, I mean, there's a lot of things going on.
It's hard enough just like taking on a different, or, you know, taking on a new role, but then as one of your first tasks, like starting up a different system and
Yeah.
winding down an old system. That's,
We have a new PEO, we
yeah,
have,
that's
it's
a
a
lot.
lot of things going on.
There's a lot of moving.
And generally it
pieces.
doesn't go smoothly. It's kind of par for the course.
Well, I appreciate it, everyone. Also, thank you for the discussion and
Mhm.
for granting me permission to share once the draft 2024 audit is completed, that I can share that with the city and I don't have to feel too on edge about waiting. And I think they would appreciate that they wouldn't have to wait until after we approved it.
I already signed the letter.
Yeah, for the tax engagement, yes, and I sent that over to them today, so I thank you for signing that today.
Okay, let's move down to executive director report.
Well, I've been asked to do a report on the village. The anniversary for the village was the 18th of March. It had been open 1 year. And I have a series of outcomes and data that I want to provide for the village. So for the year term from March 18th of last year through March 18th of this year, we've served 157 unique individuals. That's 157 different individuals have been housed at the village. At the end of March 18th, the census was 37. That's how many people were housed at the village. There were 120 people that had exited at that point during that year. The exits to permanent housing were 30. That's 24% of all exits, 24.79% of all. Exits to long-term care or transitional housing was 6. That's 4.96% of all exits. Exits to staying with others temporarily was 13. That's 10.74% of all exits. And the exits to the street or to shelter was 56. That's 46.28 of all exits. I want to say the distinctions about these exits. As an emergency shelter or emergency shelter situation, we always encourage people to go stay with anywhere they can, and the emergency shelter should be the last place that people go. And it should be they should absolutely need to be there because they have no other housing option. So when I know a lot of times when we tell people that they went to stay with friends or family, they view that as being negative, but that fits right in with the emergency shelter model, that if they have somewhere they can stay, that's where we encourage them to stay and not come to an emergency shelter. So living with temporarily with other people, that's within the scope of what emergency shelters encourage people to do. So we actually want to serve the people that have absolutely nowhere else to live. So I just wanted to say that because I know a lot of times there might be some negative connotations with, well, they're living with somebody else. They went to stay with family. They didn't get permanent housing. One of the things I learned at a Rapid Rehousing Institute is that somebody living with somebody is not unhoused. If you have a place to live and a place to sleep, you're not unhoused. And that doesn't mean it's where they want to live, or it's not a preferable place that they can live, but they're not unsheltered or unhoused. So that's important to know.
So James, if I'm hearing tracking what you said, then about half of the people that exit you would regard as they've made an improvement in their situation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, a little less than that. It's about, because the exits to the street or back to the shelter is 46. Yeah, it's more than that, excuse me.
Yeah.
So to the streets, the 26 is 21%. 7 of those 26 are now utilizing night by night services, so they went back to the shelter. And 30 of those went to the shelter in programming. So that includes night by night and 90 day. So that's 24%. The average length of stay was 91 days for everybody there. 87 days for those who had already left. So of the 120 leavers, their average was 87. 106, the average was for those still enrolled at the end point, which is the 18th of March. With 91 being the weighted average of the two. So the village turnover rate for staff for the first year is 36.45%. This does not include anyone that left their position at the village due to internal transfer or promotion. It only includes true voluntary or involuntary terminations. So of the 6 terminations, 3 were voluntary, meaning they ended their tenure with LCS, and 3 were involuntary, meaning they were terminated. And I do have the demographics report that I will put in the board share drive. So if anybody wanted to view the village, I know Christina on there. I know she likes to hear the stats and the demographics. Let me see what's a good one to point out. Of our clients, of the 157 that were there, 56 said they had a physical disability. 21 said they have a developmental disability. 57 said they had chronic health conditions. We get to the the 157, 50 were chronically homeless. Of the people that were homeless, let me see which one stands out. 61 clients had 365 days or more homeless. 96 had less than a year homeless. 66 was their one-time homeless in the past 3 years, and 30 had 2 homeless episodes in the past 3 years. 38 had 4 or more times homeless in the past 3 years. We have 15 veterans out of 157. Is that pretty much, anybody have any questions about that?
I don't have any questions. Thank you, James. I do appreciate those numbers because the data represents individuals, right? And so as
Yeah.
part of the programming and the processes of development of programming while the clients or the guests are staying sheltered. I know that the State Care Center or the Sexual Trauma Abuse Care Center in the Willow have put in office hours. So knowing some of that data, especially as it reflects gender identity and race and other identifiers, including being a person who is a military veteran, helps us to design programming and educational tools that we could use to reflect the clients and serve them readily. So thank you for that information. And all that info, including race and gender demographics, can be found in our shared folder, correct? If you don't report on this every
I'm
time.
gonna deposit this report into there, but you have all the reports that lead up for last year that break out the village by month. And so I'll put this in there. This is just the village for that year.
Perfect. Yes, thank you for all that information. I think it just helps us create a more detailed and tailored educational outreach.
Do you want gender information?
Yes, gender information I think is relative and important as well.
I'll tell you that right now. So of the 157, 59 identified as women, 94 identified as men, 2 were women and 1 other gender identity. 1 was more than 2 gender identities, and 1 client preferred not to answer. The racial breakdown was 90% white, or 90 white, excuse me, not percent. Well, I guess I could give the percent, it's just hard to read. 57.32 were white. Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander was 0.64%. Black or African American was 14%. American Indian, Alaska Native or Indigenous was 6.3%. Multiracial is 16.56%. Asian was 0.64%. Okay. Anything else?
No, I appreciate that, James. Again, all this information will be collected in a folder for us to review at a later date, possibly.
Yep, I'm gonna put it, you know where, the board share drive,
Yes.
or I think it's under reports.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for that
I'll put this in
information.
there. You're welcome.
I guess the only other question I had, having completed 1 year, is
Mhm.
either, I shouldn't pose it solely as a negative, but degradations or enhancements.
Okay, I did leave, I left that out, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
So I would say that the restroom facilities and laundry facilities have degraded over the year, but what I believe is that it's not the systems, it's how they're hooked up. So it's the plumbing. For the volume, those facilities can't handle the volume of daily use of 50 people. Because it's a repository to a septic tank and it's gravity fed into the sewer system. It needs something different than that in order to handle. So we get a lot of clogs. Just for instance, when all the highways froze in Kansas, or all the highways were closed, all our water was frozen at the building. That's because of outside plumbing. The plumbing is hoses running from spigot in the ground with the hose to the back of the trailers, and they froze. We even insulated those lines with some insulation you buy. It's not enough, so they froze. And so when they're not frozen, they're slowed down in the winter. In the summer, the volume and the way it has to operate causes them to clog up. In the beginning, back in March of last year, you had individuals that wanted to sabotage, and so they would put things that shouldn't go in the toilet drains, and it would clog them up. And so there's been a high cost of maintenance to keep those running. Right now, we're facing some, it's not stable right now, so we have water tilting. During this 1 year, we had a community room built, which is a wonderful facility. I think next week we're gonna have the floor sealed. We actually put a TV over there, and it is really a community room. It's excellent. The laundry facility, I think it must be the plumbing that causes the draining of the washers and just the volume of use. I don't know about everybody's household or not. Do I sort my clothes and I do loads? I think we have guests that get a certain amount of soap and they put everything in at once, and it kind of overloads. They're not commercial washers. I see that at the shelter also. So I won't say it's a degradation. I think it's just it's a heavy load to bear. And so that's what we're saying. Other than that, the wear on the pallets,
yeah.
we've had some heaters that had to be replaced. Some of the locks, they're not a doorknob, it's a handle lock, and if you lean on that handle repeatedly, they get loose and wobbly, and so we've had to replace some of those. A lot of times in the winter, when it's warm and you kind of block the heater, it tricks out the thermostat, and so they'll shut off. It might think it's too hot. But what it is somebody might be right in front of the heater, reflecting the heat back, or they're sitting right there. And so they have to be restarted. You have to reset the GFI, and then you have to reset it. And I think it's a way you have to do it for it to work, because everybody can't do it. We've had a lot of tampering with smoke detectors, and so some of them have become inoperable. There was a time where one group of guests knew how to pull one wire out, so it looked like it was working, but it wouldn't beep. That was so they could smoke in there. And one of the things we don't take lightly is safety when it comes to smoking in the cabins. It's really a fire hazard, so we don't take lightly that. We might give one warning, but if somebody continues to violate that, we tend to exit because of this. it's not a good thing for that to happen, so.
So we haven't suffered any, like with Monarch, where we've actually had units that are no longer habitable. We haven't had
no.
that
No.
experience.
No, we've had some times where they've been, there's been extreme use. With some graffiti, some. Just lifestyles, that cause them to need to be. Cleaned differently than others, we have, because there's no restroom inside, there's no water inside, people have to leave to go to the restroom, and sometimes if you're used to camping, you have ways that you don't have to do that, and we have people that do that, and it creates a biohazard sometimes, and so we've got to go in. We've actually bought a sprayer unit, we have power washer, we have shop vacs to really clean them comprehensively. So that's been good. We've hired a cleaning company that comes in and sanitizes the community room, the laundry room, and all the restrooms 4 times a week. So they come in based on a certain level of cleanliness. They do it. They do that. They empty all the trash. So that's been a big help. So other than that, I just had the risk assessment person from our professional employment organization. We did a walkthrough yesterday. But I'll send that to the board. I'll make that available for you to read. We actually did that at the shelter too, so that's been a blessing to have for access. Access has been wonderful in that regard. Comprehensive training and things like that, so we're moving on.
I was thinking when you gave the report about the village, I have a sort of a faint memory of discussion about hiring a SOAR case manager. And I don't know that we committed to that, but I am curious when you talked about the number of people that reported having a disability.
We have two SOAR case managers.
Okay, so can you tell us how that's worked out?
I think I know the first one that was successful. She got her first successful disability determination. One of the things that has worked out is they've been able to work with individuals to get that information. But just because people have an identified disability, they're still not eligible at certain times to get disability. And we have a lot of people that have burdened our second SOAR trained case manager to say, I've got a disability, I want to work on the case. And we've had to instill some thresholds to when you will submit SOAR. He's been working with individuals to get it. But I don't think they're at the point where it's going to be successful yet, but he's been doing some of the work and gathering some of the documentation. And so we just have to drill down to make sure that he follows the basic thresholds of what they have to have in order to start that process. And so it may be a given false hope. It's an arduous task to gather all the information. So it's not like he can just take on all these cases and get everybody. You have to spend a significant amount of time with one person to get that gather information. So we're working into that. We've actually just hired a case manager that her background was in job training and job employment. So she's going to be our employment specialist. She's going to do her groups on Thursdays to talk about employment and resumes and whatever. And then she's going to start working with agencies in the community to develop work programs if we can. It's starting to feel pretty good with the groups and things like that. So,
all right. Any other things to report?
Next week, we're starting our social media campaign.
Okay.
You heard me talk a little bit about that. We're kicking off on Monday. So just be ready to be bombarded with social media.
All right.
It's gonna be great. It feels good what we're doing. We've got a lot of stuff going on. So we're gonna kick it off next week. It's gonna be a 90-day social media blast. So we have something planned for 90 days to do that. It's 90 days, right?
Yeah, 90 plan.
Yeah, 90-day plan.
And I know the first week or two is gonna be let us reintroduce ourselves to the community. I did see our posts today,
Good.
just letting everybody know that it's been a few months since they've heard from us. And we're coming. I'm excited.
We're actually doing a podcast next week. We're going to Collaborative Solutions and we're gonna do a podcast. The whole team, just so we're working to do that. HRT is a big part of what we do. And so we're collaborating.
That podcast has been, I think, great. Misty, if you're listening still, I really appreciate having the Collaborative Solutions podcast. The sheriff's office also just now launched
Great.
a podcast. I think it's called View from 100. And 100 represents the badge number that's assigned to the sheriff, I believe.
Wow.
It's gonna be a monthly podcast. I don't know. They'll be probably working with different community partners, so maybe that's another shot for LCS to get in there to
It's great.
have the sheriff have a discussion with you about all the stuff that, you know, how you guys collaborate with.
Yeah, they are wonderful. They're wonderful.
Shannon Oury was on there, John Kriebel, so we have
Really?
some on Collaborative Solutions,
Yeah,
like,
our podcast.
I feel like there's been some board
Yeah.
engagement on
Yeah.
that podcast. It's been really delightful to listen to. All right, if you have nothing else, we'll move on to exec committee report. I think we just had two items that I wanted to kind of share with the rest of the board. We talked a little bit about this last month, so just wanted to give a follow-up. We've been discussing our insurance coverages and had some questions that we're kind of waiting to hear back from the insurance company about. We got some of that response was shared by email, but we haven't had any discussion as a committee since we received that information. So I think just stay tuned on that front. And then the other topic, hold on. I'm losing my memory too quickly here. It was, around the line of credit. So the line of credit, this has been an ongoing issue. It was about a year ago that the board authorized James to pursue a line of credit. And we were not able to get the line of credit as we first envisioned. So now we've asked the board or the bank to consider what line of credit might be possible if the city does not subordinate their lien to the bank. And so we're now waiting on the bank to do its part to come back with essentially come back with a proposal. But what we expect is the line of credit won't be as I think we originally were thinking it'd be around 400 or 450,000, and it's likely to be closer to maybe 100,000 or something to that effect. But just stay tuned when we get that from the bank. We'll continue to try to get that done and hopefully have some good news to share by the next meeting. Is there anything, Chuck or Christina, that you want to add to the exec committee report?
I think those have been the main points that we've talked about, certainly.
Okay,
I do not.
advisory. Oh, Christina, did you have something? Sorry.
No, I was just commenting, no more additions. Thank you for summarizing that executive report.
Okay. The advisory committee report. Christina, that would be you, I guess.
That would be me, and I do not have anything to report. Really excited about this social campaign and media launch. Hopefully that will reinvigorate people and folks and we can start having the conversation about just introducing the executive or advisory committee to the public and taking those applications back in. I know there's quite a few people who have a lot of very bold and strong opinions about LCS, and so I would like for people to be able to comment and come together as a groupthink. So we'll have to push that out at a later date, but nothing to report.
Thank you. And operations committee. Anything new? Okay. Is there any other business for board member items tonight?
I guess I would, just for my own education purposes, and Shannon would have been the one to answer this. I noted the article in the Journal World about the closing of the waiting list for housing in association with transition housing or supportive. I guess I'd have to go back and look and see what it was, but James, do you know, does that comment coming out of the housing authority have an impact on any of our associations or successes or anything of that nature?
Well, I can say that for us, I mean, I had the stat, we so far this year, I think we did maybe 20 or 30 applications. But the waiting list, if they're on the waiting list, is good, because we just had somebody that was on the waiting list, and I think she just got in, or her voucher's coming up. They're not taking people off the wait list, they're still going, but the wait is 5 years. So I just, for the life of me, I've never understood how that's a valid list that people have to wait 5 years because they're homeless to get into housing. That just, it shows that there's a problem. So it's not gonna affect the people that are already on there, but it affects, of course, but if you're putting people on the list now and they have to wait 5 years, but it's something we do. We always have people complete the application, or we encourage them to complete the application if they're looking for housing and they qualify. But I think what that illustrates is that there are things that are going to be happening that are going to be hopefully not catastrophic, but seemingly they're going to be catastrophic for the population that we're serving. That the least of us will be impacted the most for some of the things that are happening right now. Just talked to somebody who works for HUD, and that her office is in a panic about what's coming down, you know, so there's a reverberation of, you know, if you've got staffing, then staffing is about programs, and programs can come because of that. When this happened before with her, they had individual representatives managing multiple programs and everything was slowed down. So I think with some of these federal grants, the allegations are congressional, so I don't know how they're gonna stop them, but.
All right, any other board member items?
Yeah, something.
Sure.
I don't remember if I brought this up to the broad board. I vaguely remember bringing it up to our exec committee about gathering board demographics for part of our
Yeah, that's right.
GuideStar profile. That would elevate our profile from silver to gold, I
Okay.
believe. And so when I'm done with accounting things and get back to fundraising things, and the GuideStar profile, getting us that at a gold level. I would be interested in collecting board demographics for those board members who are willing to provide them.
Okay. Yep. Well, I think we're waiting for that. Just let us know.
Like,
Or if you got
prioritize.
a form to fill out, just send it. I think we can
Yeah,
get it going.
all right.
All right. Well, there's nothing else. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
All right, can I get a second to adjourn?
I'll go ahead and second that, yes.
Thanks, Christina. All right, motion's been made and seconded to adjourn at 7:26 PM. All in favor, say aye.
Uh,
Aye.
I
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes.